Imagine holding absolute power and privilege, only to realize none of it can protect you from your own mind. Two men ran the same experiment. In a Nepalese palace, Siddhartha Gautama had every earthly desire catered to. Yet he noticed that sickness, aging, and anxiety still breached the palace walls, rendering his immense wealth useless against human suffering. Across the world, commanding the Roman Empire, Marcus Aurelius sat at the absolute peak of global military and political authority. He too recorded in his private journals that true happiness could not be commanded or bought, even by an emperor. Both men discovered that optimizing the external world is a failing strategy for internal peace. They needed to find a way to intervene at the level of perception. Their writings isolate a single shared diagnosis. We are miserable because we live as emotional slaves, entirely dependent on circumstances we cannot control. The Stoics called this ailment the passions. They theorized that an event itself doesn't cause pain. Rather, the pain comes from our own false judgments about the event. The Buddhists identified this as dukkha. Suffering arises from our deep mechanical craving for impermanent things to last forever. Both traditions pinpointed the same vulnerability, the split-second gap between stimulus and automatic reaction. They devised two different methodologies to intercept that response. Without an active intervention in that tiny window, our default programming dictates our emotions. The Buddhist approach begins with subtraction. By stepping away from the daily friction of society, practitioners enter a physical retreat to observe the mind in total silence. Here, they deploy a tool called vipassana, or insight meditation. The goal isn't to think through problems, but to bypass rational, conceptual thought entirely. By sitting still and directly observing physical sensations, an itch, an ache, a breath, without reacting, you watch the feelings arise and fade. This proves their impermanence, gradually dissolving the illusion of a solid, permanent self. By removing the fuel of external distraction, the mind starves the fire of craving, achieving stability through radical non-attachment. The Stoics took the opposite route. Instead of retreating, they planted themselves firmly in the center of society, using pure reason as their primary shield. Annoying neighbors, civic duties, physical pain, these aren't distractions from the practice. For a Stoic, this friction is the actual training dummy you practice against. They navigate chaos using a strict algorithm, the dichotomy of control. This mentally categorizes what is up to us versus what isn't. When stressors hit, the uncontrollable evaporates. What remains is our judgment, allowing us to logically reframe thoughts before reacting. The obstacle isn't just something to escape. The obstacle is the material you use to build your tranquility. Despite their different starting points, one in retreat, the other in the forum, both traditions arrive at a similar outward moral stance. Because neither system ends in selfish isolation, they both culminate in an intense duty and empathy toward every other living being. We see this in Seneca's writings on the Stoic practice of oikeiosis. He describes a vast and truly common state that bounds our citizenship by the path of the sun. The practice is to mentally expand your inner household until you view all humanity as kin. This maps directly onto the Buddhist practice of metta-meditation. Here, the practitioner trains to take a mother's unconditional love for her child and extend it outward, blanketing the entire world. Inner tranquility isn't a blank emptiness. It produces an active, unshakable connection to others. Stoicism and Buddhism serve as highly interoperable 2,000-year-old frameworks for managing consciousness. You might use a Buddhist body scan to dissolve physical tension in a quiet room, and later rely on Stoic journaling to logically reframe a crisis in a chaotic boardroom. By putting these frameworks to work, you gain the ability to decouple meaning from circumstance, mastering your internal response regardless of external chaos.